What's up, everyone? It's Richard Graves of the Richard Graves Group. Glad to see all of you. First, let me say, please like and subscribe to the channel. You know, we've been running our content through YouTube more so than Facebook. I know it's a transition for people. But yeah, please like and subscribe so we know, our demographics and so we can speak to more of the topics that you guys are interested in. As I told you guys a few months ago, we'll be getting back on my other channel for the music show. That's going to be coming soon, where we'll be actually talking about house music topics, talking with house music producers and DJs, and actually some hip hop producers and DJs as well. That being said, I'm also going to be, the Faith and Philosophy channel. We're going to be doing a class called Christianity 101. It's going to be some coursework, an 8-week course that'll be available to people. And like I said, we'll be putting all that out on Facebook to, my friends of different groups, people who are interested in those things. Anyway, today, of course, I have Jonathan Golden, from my friend from up in Detroit. We're going to be talking about some topics today. We're going to talk about Ice Cube and this whole thing about him being a civil rights leader or not. We're going to talk about Carlee Russell and her whole situation. We're going to talk about Cornel West and his run for president. And I believe we're also going to talk about Keefe D from out west to talk about the situation with this new information with the Tupac murder investigation. So without further ado, my homie from D-Town, what up, Sir Jonathan Golden?
Sir.
Are we doing Her Majesty's today?
His Majesty, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. His Majesty. Good day to you, sir. I say good day.
It's a new king in England, brother.
Yeah, the queen is dead. Long live the king, right?
No comment.
Well, we had that discussion.
We have one allegiance.
Well,
one faith, one Lord, and one baptism, brother.
Oh, okay.
One king.
unless you're the Beehive and you worshiping Beyonce or something like that. All right, so let's go ahead first. All right, as you know, I had a post a few weeks ago. On Twitter, I noticed people like Mark Lamont Hill and other various Black liberals in their body about Ice Cube. And then I started seeing posts about Ice Cube. Ice Cube is not a civil rights leader. Now, of course, some people try to qualify that. I guess there are certain people on the right who introduced Cube as a civil rights leader when he had them on their shows. And honestly, I think the only reason why the people on the left, the peanut gallery on the left, the Mark Lamont Hills, and, that particular crew, Ibrahim Kendi, all those folks over there got upset is because Ice Cube said basically that Black folks need to stop blindly supporting the Democratic Party. And that he didn't even endorse the Republican Party. He said we got to start asking for meat on our plate because we're not getting none. And the bigger thing with me, I was like, okay, well, also, no one was complaining when Colin Kaepernick was called a civil rights leader, or when someone says something about maybe like LeBron James or other celebrities. As long as they're saying what people on the left want to hear, then it's fine. The moment they go against the Democratic narrative and even suggest that Black folks should possibly think for themselves outside of that dynamic, the next thing you know, he's not a civil rights leader, he shouldn't be listened to. And I'll be honest, I think a couple of years ago we did a show where Cube, I think, was talking to Trump, and I went in. I was like, man, what is you doing? But on the other hand, I had to backtrack on that. And bottom line, he has a right to say what he wants to. And honestly speaking, he has been a person that has discussed, civil issues in our society, Black issues. Mm-hmm. I mean, F the police. I know people like to say that just as something to say, but at the end of the day, Ice Cube was saying there was something deeper about the song than that. It wasn't just F the police. It was talking about how it was the criminal justice system in general, how Black men particularly were treated by law enforcement in large cities like Chicago, New York, LA, Philadelphia, Detroit, Cleveland. Yeah. So each of our cities have had stories, a lot of stories about abuses against Black men. And, Ice Cube now, they said it, straight up to the point. They said it like, they didn't have to say it academic. They made the point, and the point resonated. And let me be clear, I'm not saying all police are bad. I don't think most are. But it does speak to a reality of racial bias that was going on in law enforcement. It still continues. And the overall criminal justice system that is kind of stacked against Black men. So even if it was just only that, he did contribute to the conversation about things going on social politically in our community. You listen to songs like Steady Mobbin' or Summer Vacation. Summer Vacation, another very educational song. It was not celebrating gangster life whatsoever. He explained how gang life from LA started moving across the country to St. Louis. Now, shoot, it's all LA gang cultures in New York and Atlanta and Detroit, everywhere. So I think that Cube has a right to, I think if you don't have to agree with him, but he has a right to say what he says, and we have a right to think about it. As Black people, we don't have to just think one way. The only one way we should think is that we want what's best for Black people. That's it. That's the only thing we got to agree on. We want what's best for Black people, and we're gonna have ideas. Some of us are conservatives, some of us are liberals, some are Christians, some are Muslims, some are atheists. Some are gay, some are straight. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, though, all of us should be able to come to the table in our differences and be able to discuss things and come up with solutions. But anyway, I ramble. What's your thoughts?
No. So you made some very good points. You talk about after police. That was Colin Kaepernick to the 20th power 30 years prior to Colin Kaepernick. You know what I'm saying? That was they wanted to ban him, and they couldn't in Detroit. They got arrested in Detroit for singing that song.
Yeah, they did. I remember that.
Yeah, that was here downtown Detroit here. So as far as fighting the power, which really and fighting the power and rebellion, civil rebellion for the positive, if you can say that's positive, was what hip hop was originally, not all this other stuff that they're talking about. It was about consciousness, real consciousness, and Ice Cube was a part of that. After Police was the Colin Kaepernick of his day, taking the knee, got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So he does have. He's an OG. He's an OG in the game, and so he has a right to speak up. Got a right to say something like that. Ice Cube is respected. I think it's two things here. The first thing is Negroes always looking for another Martin Luther King. There will never be another Martin Luther King. We're always looking for this leader to whatever. We're always looking to follow behind someone. So to say he's not a civil rights leader, what does that supposed to mean? He's a voice who has a platform, and he's actually speaking something that I think we should lay hold of. And that is, let's just not blindly give our vote to someone and not hold them accountable. And if they're not going to do things for our community that we want them to do. I don't believe in athletes and entertainers being leaders.
Yeah, we had that talk.
I do not. They are not. No, there is no recorded time in history, Mr. Historian, where athletes and entertainers have ever led anything.
Well, technically.
They've been ancillary.
Okay.
They've been accessories. Harry Belafonte, Dick Gregory. Their job is to use their platform as much as possible vocally, and then give money to the people who are out there actually grinding.
What about Muhammad Ali?
Muhammad Ali was not a civil rights leader. He was a gentleman, a man who stood up for his rights, and he was iconic in that we revered him for sacrificing his career for what he believed in. That is America. He was an icon for that, where he was not a leader. He was not. So he was not a leader.
What would you define? Well, I hear what you're saying. So you would define someone like Malcolm X as a leader.
He was a voice.
You wouldn't define Malcolm X as a leader?
He was a voice.
Bro, you're gonna get me in trouble.
I don't listen. Listen. So I'm hesitating on saying that he was a leader in some capacity.
So what is your definition?
He was a leader in Black thought and intellectualism and Black pride.
So what is your definition of a leader? Well, Dr. King, would you consider Marcus Garvey?
Yes.
Elijah Muhammad?
Yes.
Okay.
In the sense of a leader, whether I agree with him is irrelevant.
I understand. Stokely Carmichael?
I like Stokely.
Okay. All right. So I understand what you're saying. You would consider a leader someone who actually has a following of some type, be it a religious leader, a political leader, someone who has people that mobilize And when they say move, we move just like that.
Just like that. Yeah.
Oh,
That's what I mean. And so like they're prideful, emotional voices to uplift us. Malcolm, I think, was one of those. If you want to say that's a leader, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to
please
argue
don't,
that.
because I already get enough hate mail. I don't need no more.
I'm not going to argue that. Listen, I listen to Malcolm. I love Malcolm X. Don't get it twisted. But in the sense of galvanizing a people towards moving and doing actually doing something. We don't have many of those people anymore. Those
Right
people
now,
really don't exist.
well, no, I think we have a different world right now. The social, political, and social economic dynamic is quite different. There are similarities, but I think right now, and also I think we have a bunch of people who are superficial. I think that the so-called black intellectuals, black academics, and black so-called leaders right now, when you're talking about like an Ibrahim Kendi, or even if you're talking about on the right, someone like Candace Owens, I think all these people are manufactured talking heads to forward narratives, niche narratives to speak to a white base to make them feel better in some way, shape, or form. For example,
Self-aggrandizing.
right. Like you got Ibrahim Kendi, who wrote the book Anti-Racism. But it's really speaking, that book speaks to white liberals who want to be on the moral side of being against racism by phrasing things a certain way without actual any impact on really working on policy. So he speaks to that crowd. And then you have, I call it the black elite on the left, who want, in my opinion, they like for black folks to be in a victim position. You have to be in a victim position for them to be relevant. Then on the right, you got your Candace Owens, who cater to white conservatives, or I shouldn't say white conservatives. Let me be clear. I shouldn't say white liberals on the left either. White leftist extremists on the left, white extremists on the right. All right, who, like for example, with Candace Owens saying that the Southern strategy never happened, denying quantifiable historical facts for the purposes of making this radical right wing feel better about themselves, about the America that they believe that they live in. So I think that that's a problem. That's what we have. We have media manufacturing, so-called leaders and talking heads, as opposed to them going out organically out of the community itself.
Yeah. So and that is certainly true. And I'll get to my second point about Ice Cube. But you have what I grew up knowing. You have a lot of Rush Limbaughs. Rush Limbaugh was a very, 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 how do you say the person that's the first to do something? He was
groundbreaking.
He was groundbreaking. He was a disc jockey who became a leader somehow of the Republican constituency and mindset, if you will. I remember watching Rush Limbaugh when I was little on TV, on public television. And he's very controversial. And so now that you have social media, you have a lot of Rush Limbaugh prototypes. Candace Owens is one of them. She's just another Rush Limbaugh. She's a shock jock, or she's a social media jock, or a shock. She's a Howard Stern of social media. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And those people aren't leaders. I would not put Ice Cube in that.
Absolutely not. I think Ice Cube, honestly speaking, as far as him being organic, him being for real about it, whether I agree with everything he says or not, he's for real with it. That's what I can bank on. That's what Cube believed, and also we know where Cube comes from. Cube comes out, of LA. I believe Cube is not from Compton. I think Cube is from South Central. But anyway it goes, he grew up somewhere very similar to places you and I grew up. And I think he's real about it. Like I said, I can name probably about 5 or 6, Cube songs off the top of my head that were very deep and meant something more than just a rap song. And real quick, if you don't mind, we'll talk about hip hop real quick. Because like you said, that's what it was about before. Hip hop was a voice of the voiceless before. When it started, you had, of course, Sugar Hill and all the fun songs, but you had Grandmaster Flash talking about white lines, talking about the dangers of drugs. You had Run DMC talking about hard times, and it's like that. People were making points about
Curtis
the
Blow.
life. Yeah, Curtis Blow. With 8 Million Stories and stuff like that. They were telling stories, about what was really happening, and so people, this was the Reagan era, all right, and people were really talking about, the world and what was really, really affecting Black people. And I think that's what hip hop was. And even when you listen to the stuff that we used to breakdance to, African Bambaataa and Soul Sonic
Yep.
Force,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff Man Parrish used to make with hip hop bebop and Boogie Down Bronx, it was still uplifting music. It wasn't about negativity. So now, fast forward, we get past everything. We get to the gangster rap phenomenon. All right.
Which
When
was
gangster rap,
manufactured.
right. But gangster rap comes on the scene. Well, first, it was organic because NWA, that was something that nobody saw coming. All right. So NWA.
Yeah, but Interscope, man, yeah,
Well,
they.
well, hear me out. Hear me out. When NWA came out, and here's the thing: even though Eazy-E was a Crip, Kelly Park, right? From Kelly Park in Compton, Eazy-E wasn't glorifying Crippin'.
Mhm.
And Ice Cube, even though he was from the neighborhood, from the hundreds, he wasn't a Crip either. All right. But they were telling stories about things that were happening in the hood. And yeah, there were some songs you could say they kind of glamorize things, like the boys in the hood is always hard. But when you listen to a lot of songs that Cube made, it wasn't glamorizing it. Like I said, if you listen to Summer Vacation,
Mhm.
I won't do the lyrics, I ain't gonna rap. But when you listen to Summer Vacation, any of y'all watching, look up Summer Vacation by Ice Cube, the lyrics. The story tells the story of how gangs left LA and got to St. Louis. And at the end of the song, somebody gets killed, they get locked up. He says it's a legal business and brothers still can't get together. He tells what happens in prison. You got to deal with the Crips and the Bloods by the hand, G, and the Black Gorilla family, and the white pride don't like no side. And it's like it's the same old brother, the same old system stuck, and the public defender ain't giving a F. You know what I'm saying? That was true stuff, and it wasn't glorifying it. And Cube was looked at as hard back then.
Mhm.
And then you had Paris from out there. You still had X-Clan. So at that point, you had that gangster funk and you had that pro-black stuff, the Public Enemy and KRS-One and them were doing neck and neck. Now, you and I think would agree around 92 when when Dre dropped the Chronic. I think that's when the industry decided to push the button and go gangster for real.
Mhm.
And that's when the songs stopped being about the hood and this is not good, to the songs start being about celebrating being a drug dealer, being a gangster. I think it was DJ Quick who first mentioned what hood he was from. I think he from he's from Treetop Pyru. I think that he said that him and MC8 had they beef, and then of course Snoop was representing Long Beach, and we know what they was representing. Long Beach is all Crips, so you know what that was about. So that gangster lifestyle became the issue. Now, 30 years later, I don't know what you guys got going on in Detroit, but we got this drill music in Chicago. It's like a death cult, man. It's a death cult. Every song is about killing the ops, you know, um, you know, what gun you got, every video, people jumping around. I mean, we don't have so many murders from behind songs, you know. Was it FBG Duck? He got killed because he dissed all the dead homies of the Black Disciples. FBG Duck was a gangster disciple, and he made this song to diss the dead homies, and they came and they killed him on the Gold Coast in Chicago. All right, that's when they said, okay, this stuff though got out of hand. You killing people on the Gold Coast, that's like killing somebody on Rodeo Drive in Los Angeles. So again, we've come now to the bare bones. Now to the point, if you talk to a youngster about Ice Cube, you know what they're gonna say? As good as a rapper Ice Cube is, one of the debates right now is if Ice Cube was a better storyteller than Biggie, which he was. All right.
Woo! That's not fair from this standpoint. Biggie didn't come out but two albums, bro.
But that's the reality. You can't say that Biggie told better stories than Cube when he only told a couple stories. And Cube brought to life. Cube literally brought to life LA to everybody. We weren't even there, and he was
a conveyor of the stories,
but
in
that's
such
the whole
a way
thing.
we had not seen from the West Coast.
So,
but lyrically, there is no comparison between.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
Rich, stop! You sound like old guy. You sound like old guy. Get off my lawn, bro. Biggie,
no, man. I mean,
lyrically,
Biggie, that was my era, bro. All right. I don't think that Biggie would get the props he get if he hadn't have died. And I'm sorry.
That's
Now,
that's life too.
Biggie's life and death was in a hard impact on hip hop culture. That's correct, just like with Tupac. But Tupac at least had a body of work that you got to respect. Biggie had some decent songs. Don't get me wrong. He has some, and I just got to listen. For example, I listen to "You Can't Stop the Rain" with Biggie and Shaquille O'Neal. I don't care what nobody says. It's a cold song. I think Biggie was a cold lyricist, but if we're gonna be fair and judge people, we got to judge them by their body of work. And Ice Cube wins hands down on that.
That's only not, yeah, but lyrically, I'm talking about lyrical skill. There is not even a comparison here.
I don't know, bro.
We're
going to do a different show on that, man.
But anyway, I want to get back to Ice Cube and where his standpoint coming from, bro. All right. Ice Cube is coming, and I'm going to show some love to Claude Anderson. His philosophy of let's not give our vote to anyone who's not going to do anything for us comes from Claude Anderson's Powernomics. And I employ everybody to read that book. He talks about what a community really is, what a neighborhood really is, what a city is. It talks about, and Cuba's talking about controlling your own resources, controlling your grocery store, your bank, your school, your municipality, right? All the essential places where you get things to survive, you have control over them. That is what you call a community. And so when it comes to politics, Claude is like, listen, I have no stake in that at all. He doesn't vote at all. Claude Anderson, all the educated, Claude Anderson, if you don't guys know, is the person who wrote the affirmative action bill. He actually wrote it. It was him, Claude Anderson. Look him up, Power and Economics. But his position is that it don't matter who you vote for, we're not going to get what we want. Black folks have been voting Democratic since the 60s. We still don't control any more of the nation's wealth than we did after Reconstruction. Well, nothing. It hasn't changed at all.
You know, I'm going to say this.
Education does not give you liberty.
No, I'm not saying that. It doesn't. All right. I'm going to say this. It takes all types to make a nation run, bro. You know, the academics and the intellectuals are one part of that. So are the soldiers. So are the carpenters. So are the mothers. So are the pastors. So are the doctors, the teachers, the librarians. It takes a whole group. So it's not just education. It's education in what you need to be educated in. We need people that know how to build. We need people that know how to do business. We need people that know how to, in all aspects of things. So that's how you build a nation. A nation is comprised of many different people. Now, Mr. Anderson himself, you know, he's an academic, all right? Dude is brilliant. You know, I may or may not agree on everything he has to say. You know, Dr. Anderson is quite intelligent, and he does make some very good points. Now, I would disagree with him on not voting. I think people mistake the fact that voting means nothing without accountability. If you do not hold accountability power, but see, that's the whole point. We can't be lazy about this, bro. You know, politics is not a part-time sport. This is something you got to be involved in on a local level, on a state level, on a national level. You have to play the game. You can't just go and vote for somebody and walk away and think it's going to be all good. You have to let's look at the LGBTQ community. A prime example, whether you agree with their movement or not, they know how to hold people accountable. They know how to get policy pushed through. All right. That is what we as African Americans tend to not do. We go out and vote for somebody and get emotional. We like being in our emotions. But at the end of the day, we have to follow through with holding people accountable.
Okay, so what is that? And that's true. But Rich, we have to deal in some practicalities. What does that mean?
Well, it's very simple. If you live in the city of Chicago, for example, people don't get mad at me because I'm bringing Chicago up. But let's bring it up. All right. For my whole life that I can remember, Democrats have ran Chicago and the state of Illinois. All right.
Same here.
And this is not saying, hey, vote Republican. I'm saying I want you to think about this. We rail about the racism on the left. We rail about the racism in the Democratic or in the Republican Party. And there is racism in the Democratic Party. Or in the Republican Party. There's racism in the Democratic Party, you know. But let's talk about this. I'm 53, so I can remember back to I would say five. Okay, so for the last 38 years, the Democrats have ran Chicago post civil rights movement. I was born in 1970, right? So now in Chicago, what have they gotten by voting for Democrats every damn election for the same people, electing the same alderman, letting the daily stay in almost forever, all right? The same, Congress people like Bobby Rush them, all right? You got worse schools now than you had 40 years ago. You have more crime in your communities. Crime is down in Chicago across the board. It's higher in black communities, all right? You got less economic opportunity. Jobs are moving out of the city. Walmart moved out of the city. There are no Walmarts in the city of Chicago.
Well, you know what you can thank that for, though.
Yeah, well, theft. But that goes back to policy, the people that you're electing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we can go on and on at the negatives. The fact is, I'm not saying voting for the Republicans would be any better. I don't even think any Republicans normally run in Chicago. It's usually one Democrat versus a one that's slightly less liberal Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, my point is, by electing the same people and never saying, hey, if you do not get us better schools, all right, that's why I say it takes many times. That's when you do need the intellectuals to say, this is the type of curriculum we need for our kids to be competitive and go into college.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we want. And if they don't deliver, you put them out and you elect somebody else. Because they get the point. When you start putting people out of office, they get the point. But if they feel they have a perpetual that you're going to vote for them, all they got to do, Democrats come out every 2 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. I don't care if they're white or black. They go to all the black churches in the hood. They start doing their Martin Luther King impersonation. Hillary Clinton sound like Dr. King. And they pour hot sauce out their purse. And, oh, my God, they're really for us. She eats hot sauce just like us. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Again, this is not to promote the Republican Party. This is just to say to think about, I don't care if you vote for the Tree Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, whoever you put in, you have to demand that they do what you have sent them to do. And if you're too, and I'm going to use this word, please don't be offended, people. If you're too lazy to do that, then you get what you paid for. If it's more important to you to find out what who Kanye's with and who Kim Kardashian's sleeping with this week, if that's the stuff you're following, or if you're following your favorite basketball team or baseball team or football team or your favorite DJ or whatever, and that's all you do, all right, but you don't spend any time paying attention to your community, who you're electing and what you're holding them accountable for, then it's really your own fault. That's what it really comes down to. So holding people accountable is simply that. Like I said, go buy you a pair of Jordans from the store and let that bad boy not have that Nike swoop on it. You're going to go back to the store. You're going to hold him accountable to get your money back. Right? Because you care about that. So your kids going to subpar schools and, you don't hold the city council accountable, the school district accountable. Tell them we're not having it. We're going to put you out of office. I seen it happen one time in Chicago. Anita Alvarez was the prosecutor. I don't know if you remember the Laquan McDonald situation. Laquan McDonald's a young man that was shot 16 times by a police officer. Chicago cop, he comes to the scene. Laquan McDonald has a knife probably about yay big. And there's a whole bunch of cops standing there. Nobody's doing anything. Just watching the kid. You could tell he's either having a mental issue or he's having a substance issue. This cop jumps out the car and just starts firing his gun. Shoots the kid 16 times. Dead wrong. All right. The guy was dead wrong. The cop was dead wrong. He only got like 3 years in prison, which is terrible. Mm-hmm. All right. However, this was covered up by Mayor Rahm Emanuel and Anita Alvarez, who was the prosecutor. These are both Democrats. Mm-hmm. They got put out, though. I will give black people in the city of Chicago, they went out and they spoke with their voice. They put them people out of office. But that's what you got to do. You just can't wait till some kid gets shot 16 times. You got to do that for the little things, not just the big things. The little things.
But let me say this, man. I mean, that sounds good. But sometimes we don't got to wait. We ain't got 3 years to wait to put somebody else off the office. The problem is we got broken government. Some of these niggas need to be prosecuted. Period.
Well, that's true.
And there's nothing written in our state, local, and federal laws to prosecute these people when they don't do what they're supposed to do. Only recourse we have is recall. No, nigga, you need to go to jail. You need to go to jail. And just like this, I forgot, I don't know who this guy is. And until we start prosecuting politicians for not doing what they're supposed to, just not doing what they're supposed to. Forget about criminal activity. I'm talking about not doing what they're supposed to, not doing what they say they're gonna do. Then we ain't gonna never have no change. People need to go to jail and people need to die to get change.
Well, I'm not going
to. I don't care. I don't care who don't like it.
Well, I agree with you on one aspect. There's some things that are criminal. Some of the stuff that happens where, you have politicians in office that are really using the black community and stealing from our people.
How about all of the politicians in office?
Well, I can't speak to all of them because I don't know all of them,
Yeah, you do, because they've written themselves into us paying for their primaries. All of them. No one is innocent. Well, if they're not doing it, they know who's doing it and they know what they're doing and they ain't saying nothing. Well, they're all guilty. All of them.
I hear what you're saying, but then even if you want that type of reform, how does that happen? All right, let's real quick.
You know how it happens? Let me tell you how it happens.
Let me speak fair about 2 minutes here on this. The Democratic and Republican parties have written themselves into the fabric of government. They've essentially made themselves part of government to the point, if you and I start a party right now, the rules are so convoluted, it's made so we wouldn't be successful in that action. All right. The Democratic and Republican parties have done this. They've done it over years to get themselves structurally part of government. Whereas that's why we pay for their primaries. All right. So yes, that is but that's how that happens is we vote for people, we put them in over the last, I think the party system started really doing that in the early 1900s or right after the Great Depression. In any case, we allow this to happen by not holding people accountable, by not paying attention. They didn't do that in all one time. They did that incrementally, little by little. And that's why, those sayings, you let the little good things go, the big things happen. That's what I'm saying. We shouldn't let the little things go. We shouldn't wait till Laquan McDonald gets shot 16 times to hold the mayor and the prosecutor accountable. They should have been out. And any alderman who would win it should have been out. And I know it's every 2 to 4 years, but we haven't even done it to see if it actually works. We haven't. Other communities have. LGBTQ has. All right. Latino community has. Jewish community has. So we as black people can't say it don't work because we ain't never tried it. We don't try it. It works for everybody else pretty dang well. We see it working for them. That's all I'm saying. So instead of being mad at this community or that community or the other community for doing what they do to get what they want, we need to stand on it. Look at the Republicans, the people who opposed affirmative action, dealt with, stood on it. Roe v. Wade, guess what? Stood on it. Right? They stood on it. They wrecked shop. You got to give it to them, whether you agree with it or not. They had a plan. We don't like these things, and we're going to get rid of them. And they did. We could do the same thing. But the first thing we have to do is realize, okay, we're in this together. So whether I'm a conservative black or a liberal black or whatever, we want what's best for black people. Let's sit down and work that out. Some ideas are going to be good for the left. Some are going to be good for the right. But we got to try to do what is best for our communities in each individual community we're in. Because obviously, what works in Chicago may not be the same thing that's going to work in Atlanta or the same thing that's going to work in Detroit. There may be similarities. There may be some stark differences. But in each of the communities where we're at, because politics is local first, let's control these city government and state government, because they depend on that black vote in them blue areas like Detroit and Chicago. They depend on it. Democrats depend on it to win the state. So what we get, all we're saying is give us some meat on the plate. That's all I'm saying. And you got to tell them you want me to play. So like dating, if a woman dates you, all right, and she's good with you taking her out to McDonald's, she's good with that. You bring her home and you do what you will. You don't got to take her nowhere. You don't got to take her to no plays, no movies. You got to take her nowhere nice. Just come over, you get your part, and you leave out. And she's good with that. That's all she ever going to get. And then that woman is mad when she sees another woman getting taken out to the steakhouse, being given the Mercedes, the big house, and the wedding ring. Well, that's what she was demanding. All right. She said, this is the standard. You want me, this is the standard. We black folks, we a cheap date. You know, everybody else getting steak. We talking about, well, just get us some White Castle. We be all right. That's all I'm saying. We got to change that.
So, how do you change government?
You change the people in it.
No, the
Yes,
system.
that's the only way. Look, man,
No,
our
you have to
founding
change the
fathers.
entire system.
Listen, our founding. No. And let me tell you what I'm gonna say. That I understand that this whole system. Look, the system is broke. People are lazy. That's the problem. The system that we have is predicated basically on the same system that we had of democracy in Rome and in Greece. All right, the
And
system
what
isn't
happened with
broke.
them?
No, but well, all empires come and go. That's just evolution. It's like people. We live and we die. That's just how the world goes. But while we are alive, while this is an empire, all right, it's not the system. The system is the founding fathers gave us a system. The system is you vote, you put people out. They knew that it's not good to have to pick up guns every time you want to change something. So they gave us all these mechanisms that we haven't even used. That's why I'm saying you can't say a system is broken because you choose not to use the tools available to you to change it. If you choose not to use those tools, that's your fault.
Okay, so here's why the system is broken.
Mm-hmm.
The system is perpetuated by people. Okay, can't have a system without people.
Okay.
You can't have people. You can't have. You got to have people, and people wield the system nefariously, right? There is some accountability for the people, right? And this is I think where Ice Cube and Dr. Claude Anderson were talking about. We have to hold people accountable. At the same time, you can vote because we're a republic. We don't have decisions on voting on policy. We don't. We elect people to do that for us. Hold on, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
We elect people to do that for us.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how loud we bitch and moan, they'll do that if we bitch and moan loud enough, right?
That's called fully accountable.
Right. Bitching.
That part.
I get you. But this is where it's broken. It's too convoluted. They vote on stuff all the time that we don't know nothing about. Nobody has time to sit and
whose fault is that?
Huh?
Whose fault is that?
No, it's the way of life. Rich, I don't have sitting time to research every vote they come up on and how they vote. We just don't.
Let me say this.
We don't.
There are functionary things that, of course, we're not going to be paying attention to. Infrastructure build about which highway is going to be built and how many lanes are going to be in this. That's the functional stuff.
No.
Hear me out. Hear me out. All right, hear me out. I beg to differ about the time we have to actually understand the basics of what's going on and what we need to be pushing. All right, because again, other communities successfully do that. All right, other communities. So hear me out.
They have
other communities successfully
they bitch about.
do that.
They have a niche they bitch about.
It's one or two things. No, it's not one or two things. You look at communities. Let's look at suburbs, the northern or western suburbs of Chicago. Low crime.
Yep.
Great schools.
Yep.
Great libraries.
Same thing.
Great parks.
Same thing here. Yep.
Right. Same thing. Why do you think that is?
That's a very convoluted answer.
The basic answer is this. The city managers, the state reps, the mayors, the prosecutors.
Socioeconomics has a big thing to do with it.
Well, socioeconomics, yeah, because socioeconomics means that I have something that I like, my house, my community, my kids, and damn it, whoever I put in office, if you ain't doing what's best for me, I'm putting you out. And they know it. That's why it works that way. Now, don't get me wrong. You're right. Socioeconomics has a lot to do with it. You got people in the hood who, are working 2, sometimes 3 jobs. Single moms. You got a lot of single moms in the hood. It's about a 70% rate. That you don't have in the suburban areas. It's very different in numbers. All right. There are you're right. There are a lot of socioeconomic and cultural factors at play. However, if I can't, let's say, I'm an African American, I go to Chicago, South Side, West Side, say, hey, man, this is what y'all need to do. I'm just some bougie suburban Negro that don't need to be there talking to them. That's how they're going to view me. All right. Why? Well, he talking down to us. So I can't go tell him nothing. All right. The black people who live there, who are from there, are in the pocket The Democrats, they throw them some crumbs as long as they get paid. Nothing changes; it just gets worse. So at that point, you got to make a decision. What's important? Because I guarantee you, these people, all right, in these affected communities, have time. If you ask them the stats of their favorite basketball team, they know that.
Yeah,
If you ask them,
that's
hear me out. Hear me out. If you ask them the stats of their favorite basketball, they know that. They can go back to who you ask. You can ask me right now who the 49ers drafted for the college for draft. I have no idea. I'm a 49er. I have no idea. All right. You can ask these people what happened on the last episode of Love and Hip Hop. All right. The last 5 seasons, they can run it back to you. What's going on with Lil Scrap and and Erica Mina and Carlee Red. They know that. What I'm saying is, you know what you want to know. With major policy issues, right? You're not going to go through the minutia of structural government. That's not normally going to happen. On a city level, possibly, county level, possibly. When we talk about federal, state, it's not really, you're not going to do that. That's why you got to trust who you elect. And you got to check on them sometime and say, okay, what are they doing? Because this didn't happen. You got to go. Like I said, you threaten the livelihood, you put them out of office, that's it. So again, we as a people have not tried that. We have not tried that, bro.
Here's the problem with your argument. A lot of the things in entertainment that we like, we have readily available. I can go to an app and instantly find the information that I want. I cannot instantly, I don't know of, and I'm educated and I understand a little bit about civics enough to be dangerous, okay? I cannot readily find what my representative has done and voted for.
But whose
what
fault
app is that?
All right, but here's my thing, bro. When we want something, if we want something to do that,
our government has made it infinitesimally impossible for us to do that.
It's not impossible. It's if somebody.
I say it very easily.
All right, no, there are people that put together information easily for us to get. Right now, if I want to search, let's say I want to search how many records Ice Cube sold over the last 30 years.
Google it, it'll come up instantly.
Right. Why is that?
Because that's what I can't do that with what my rep voted on last.
Right, but
how to do that? Which was going to come up nothing.
Here's how you do it. You're a blogger. I'm a blogger. Right. All right. As our platforms grow, I'm probably dedicate somebody to do that. Hey, man, this was your job, and we're gonna put this on the blog. And when you search Richard Gray's group, there'll be a section on the blog. This is what's going on in your local politics for your community, state. Because let me tell you who did do that. You know how affirmative action got revoked? You know how Roe v. Wade got revoked? There's a thing called the Illinois Policy Institute. There are individuals, you heard of the Koch brothers?
Mm-hmm.
The Koch brothers started things like the Illinois Policy Institute in every state. Every poor, middle-class, conservative white person or black person, they go straight to that Illinois Policy website, and it tells them everybody's voting records, and they get angry. And then they go out and vote, and then they vote for people, and then they demand changes. That's what you got to do. So someone in our community, instead of us having sites dedicated to reparations, it's not going to happen. We got sites dedicated to we're the free Black Americans and ADOS. We got sites dedicated to that nonsense and all type of hotepery. We got sites dedicated to. Well, how about, our big brains like, Michael Eric Dyson and maybe, Mark Lamont Hill, since they always dedicate their time and concern so much to get us all in our emotions about things that may or may not be important. How about dedicate some time to making that digestible? Because it happens in other communities. You think the trans community don't know what's going on with legislation when it comes down to trans rights? All right, who's pushing that agenda? They are. Mm-hmm. So we care so much about being Black. We want to argue about who the real Black folks are, argue about who's deserving of reparations. We'll argue about all the, if the time and energy we spend on that silliness, if we spend it on that type of stuff, let's take out entertainment. You're right. Let's take out entertainment. Let's just talk about the politics that Black folks argue about. We're too busy calling each other coons if someone's a conservative. All right. We're too busy calling each other, well, he's a Christian, he's a Muslim, or he's an atheist. I can't deal with him. We're too busy dividing up on silliness. We're dividing up on who is Pan-African and who is original native black Americans. We argue about all that silliness. We come up with every conspiracy theory about everything, but we're not doing the work. And other communities are. Other communities do. Try to push some negative bill about Israel through. Watch what happens.
All right.
Try to push some negative bill about immigration from Latin American countries. Watch what's happen. All right? Because you can pee on us and tell us it's raining. As long as you're keeping us entertained and lying to us.
As long as you're Democrat.
Yeah, as long as you're Democrat, keeping us entertained, putting hot sauce on your food, and and getting sweet nothings whispering in your baby, I'm gonna give you reparations. Just give me a little booty. I'm gonna give you reparations, but okay, he gonna give it to me this time.
Cornel West, bro.
Oh, we gonna go with Dr. West now?
We right there on Cornel West. Let me say this about Cornel West.
Okay.
I understand where Cornel's coming from. Cornel, I was like saying to you off show, he's Bernie Sanders, man. Everybody. What am I reading here, man? He wants to do a whole lot of, like, my goodness. He says, politics include instituting Medicare for all, banning corporate lobbying, which I agree with. That ain't number legal bribery. Ain't nobody can tell me no different. Banning corporate lobbying. Okay. That's just bribery, legal bribery.
No, I agree with you on that.
Disbanding NATO. I don't know why he doing that. Stopping all foreign military aid, abolishing student debt.
Well, wait, what did he say about military aid?
Stop all foreign military aid.
Wow. So instead of fighting proxy wars, we got to fight real wars then, huh?
Or not even get involved in that at the begin with.
Well, that's no way around that one, my friend.
Yeah, we got resources there.
Yeah.
But
now, that's the unrealistic part I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right. If Mr. West, Dr. West, I'm sorry, I mean no disrespect. He's a great intellect. I respect the man's work. I do not respect his political positions and a lot of this stuff because it's nonsensical land to make believe things. The fact is, if you gonna talk that mess, talk realistically. Tell Americans, okay, look, y'all, if y'all willing to pay about $12 a gallon for gas, we can not be concerned about what goes on in the Middle East. We won't get involved in none of that. All right? I mean, just be real. If you're willing to pay, more for energy, if you're willing to buy only American products, not buy anything from China, then we ain't got to be worried about what goes on in Asia. If you're willing to go pay, I don't know, for your pillowcases and all the stuff and your sheets and your drawers and your dressers and your desk and your cheap TVs, if you're willing to go pay what it would cost for it to be made in America, then you're right. We shouldn't be in, but we shouldn't have any ships in the naval fleet can be called back from the Pacific. All right. I don't like people who don't talk realistically when they're running for office. He's talking nonsense. He's talking land of make-believe stuff. All right. Because at the end of the day, you're not being honest. I understand he has an ideological issue with capitalism that reigns back to his radicalism in the 60s when he was pro-Soviet. All right. So I get it. And, they want to romanticize that every problem in the United States is predicated on capitalism. No, there is a type of capitalism that's a problem. Rent-seeking capitalism is a problem. Crony capitalism is a problem. But capitalism in and of itself is not an issue if it's done where the market's not distorted on behalf of the powerful. Mm-hmm. Right? So I agree with that part. But he wants to do away with it. Talk about throwing the baby with the bathwater. So again, he has these nonsensical positions. And like I say, he's a great guy. He seems like he is a great philosopher, but there's a reason why philosophers generally don't make great leaders.
Because it's philosophical, ideological shit.
It's not real land to make believe stuff. I mean, what he's running with the Green Party. I'm trying to find some of his policies here, some stuff. I'm totally not for his position with the Ukraine because that's a proxy war we're fighting right now. Yeah. Getting rid of NATO, that's his old Soviet mindset, because let's be real. Who wins to get rid of NATO? Russia. That's who
Right.
wins. Right. And that's not good for us. Russia has never been good for us or anybody else in Europe or the United. Historically, Russia has not been good. The Russian Empire hasn't been good for Europe.
Hold
Right.
on. Hold
In
on.
any
Hold on.
manifestation of it.
Hold on.
Right.
I don't disagree. You're
Okay.
absolutely right. But let's start back a little bit. The United States ain't that much better. It's not. It has worldwide, where foreign policy, it is not. It just is not.
Well, let me say this. I'm going to say this about the United States. We have done some bad things. Absolutely.
That's an understatement.
Right. Well, I mean, all nations have. It's part of being a nation. I hate to say it. This is when we have to have the big boy grown people talk with America. All right. And especially, this is stuff that I hear from the liberals all the time. That's why they irritate me when it comes to this particular position. Oh, the United States is so bad. We've done so many bad things. And yeah, all countries have throughout history and throughout time, and all will. Now, let me be clear. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. Again, real talk. You don't like what the United States has done, then give up every benefit that you get from what the United States has done. Show me, stand on it. All right. You don't like the fact that
that's not possible. It's not even realistic.
It is
to
possible.
ask someone to
can
take
leave the
that
country.
position.
Nobody's holding us hostage here no more.
Yeah,
We can leave.
If people can't even move out of the hood, how the hell are they gonna move from another country to another country?
Hold on a second. Let me be very clear. People can do what they want to do.
Rich,
all right?
Stop it now.
Hear me out, brother. Hear me out. I know people in the hood that lived on the south side of Chicago that moved to I forgot the name of the city in Pennsylvania. Moved to a city in Erie, Pennsylvania, because the welfare benefits were better. Packed up and moved. So don't tell me what people can't do. All right. Skip a couple pair of Yeezys. You can take a flight to Ghana. You can take a flight to, I believe Ghana, Senegal, and Sierra Leone. I think they all offer African Americans dual citizenship. I believe you can travel to Ghana without you can travel and move to and own land in Ghana as an African American without having a you need a passport, but you don't have to have a visa. You can I mean, if you really want to do something, you can. And all I'm saying is stand on it. All these people want to talk about we're living on native lands. Give your house back to the Wabansi tribe first, or the Potawatomis. You give your house that's sitting on their land. When you stand up and give it back to that tribe, that Native American nation, that First Nation people, I'll respect you. But if you ain't gonna do that, if you're not going to stop putting that mobile gas in your car, that BPMCO gas in your car, if you stop doing that, stop driving that Japanese car, that Korean car, if you stop doing those things, I'll be like, man, I gotta give you credit. I respect that. But as long as people benefit from, oh my God, America's some evil, while they're sitting there drinking their Starbucks latte on their cell phone made with lithium, mined by 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds over.
Rich, you mixing things. You
be about that life.
You're mixing things up.
No, I'm saying be about the life. Look, what like United States, for example, we know United States. If you look throughout history, I'm a historian. You are familiar with history. We know there have been foreign policy choices we made to put people in power that were wicked. All right, we put the Shah of Iran in power. That was wrong. I believe we're partially responsible for putting Saddam Hussein in power.
We ain't partially.
All right.
There ain't no partial to that.
No, I think that the Europeans had something to do with it as well. People with the same agenda that we had. All right. We have assassinated leaders. I believe Patrice Lumumba was assassinated by the CIA. Our government has put crack cocaine. I mean, let's be real. This was put in the streets. So yes, I'm not saying the United States is saintly. All right. I'm saying that at least I can say all this. I don't have to worry about the secret police kicking in my door and dragging me out right now. I'm saying all this probably with about maybe 700 people watching me, right? And I do not have to worry about the secret police kicking in my door, talking about you, comrade. You've talked about dear leader, dragging my butt out of here. That's why America's great, because we can say and we can do things about it. We can look. America is built on an idea, and America constantly falls short of that idea. It fell short from the beginning with slavery and taking land from Native Americans and murdering them. All right. It fell short with the Japanese concentration camps during World War II. It fell short during Jim Crow. It fell short during, I can list all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we can actually do something about it. We can, if we see something we don't like, we can do something about it. Now, we're trying to do something about it. We're talking about it and making people think about it. But luckily, we're not in Russia. We're not in North Korea. We're not in Iran. We can say all these things. We can talk crap about Joe Biden. Ain't nobody going to come snatch us up. We're not going to be facing a firing squad tomorrow. Try this stuff in North Korea. Had this conversation. We wouldn't be there for the next episode.
What you're doing is pitting two extremes against the other. Of course,
no, I'm pitting reality. That's what we have.
A handful of people you named. No, of course. But we're not like a handful of. You're right. But
Mr. Golden, real talk. That's all we have. We have countries like the Western countries, like the United States, Norway, where we have these rights, and yet the countries where you don't. There is no in between. And this is how it's been throughout world history. All right. Most of the world throughout history has looked like Russia or Iran or North Korea, where you had a leader, and if you were out of pocket, you was gone. All right. Somebody came along one day and thought up, hey, let's try democracy and give people some rights. And that grew and that changed over time from the early Greek states all the way up until now, throughout the Enlightenment. So this is the best we've had it throughout history. And it's not perfect and it's not good. And it has a lot of flaws. We're humans. We're all flawed. So if you got flawed humans running something, like you said, it's going to be flawed. But at the end of the day, the system that we have now is the best system we ever had in human history.
That's for us to be able
to, for us to be. But what I'm saying is, we can't say, well, Russia's the same as the United States. No,
yes, we can say that.
What can the Russians do?
Okay, what can we do? Rich, you going far off, bro. I'm not saying that I wouldn't rather be here. At the same time, I have every right to say, America, you full of shit. That's my right.
But here's my thing. I'm not saying you don't have that right. I'm saying because you have that right, you can't compare with Russia.
I'm not comparing with Russia.
But
I'm not comparing. So you mix, Rich. You're mixing life, what life is like for a citizen in a country versus what the countries have done, independent of what the citizens' will is. Those are two different conversations.
I'm not going to say it's independent of citizens.
It is. It is. No, damn it! It is.
No.
It is, Rich.
Let me tell you something.
We didn't want to go. We didn't want the Vietnam War, but they still took their ass over there. We didn't. No, hold on. We didn't want the Iraqi War, but they still took their ass over there. It was independent of the people.
Excuse me. You really don't want the Iraqi War?
Hell no.
Okay, so let me tell you this then.
It was independent of the people.
Okay.
All right. It was independent of the United Nations too.
Can I say something?
It was just like what Russia's doing in Ukraine. It's no different.
But what I'm saying is this, brother. If you did not like what happened in Iraq, then at the end of the day, say, I'm willing to pay $15 a gallon for gas. We're not
getting involved. That's bullshit.
It's the truth. The only reason why the United States
gas didn't go down.
Listen what I'm saying.
When we invented our gas didn't go down.
It didn't go up. That's my point.
It did go up.
Look,
what is it now?
Well, what is it now? Of course, everything goes up. I remember when gas was 50 cents a gallon. Things go up. What I'm saying is this, though.
You're espousing that if we didn't go in Iraq, our gas prices went up. That's bullshit.
No, what I'm saying is the Middle East would be irrelevant if we made the Middle East is only relevant because of energy policy in this country. That is the only reason why we give a damn about anything over. Do you think we actually care?
We don't.
Idealistically, no. The United States, the people of the United States of America need to get real and say, okay, if we really don't want to be involved in that part of the world, what do we really need to do? Independent energy policy.
Oh, but we got rid of the guy who was going to do that.
Who was that?
Oh, no, forget. I'm sorry. You guys don't like him. Let me not mention his name because gas was cheaper. Gas was cheaper 2-3 years ago. I don't give a fuck what you say, Rich.
So you want to know like we talked about yesterday when whoever run and say they bring gas down.
That's my guy.
All right, man. Look, we got going to another topic. We don't went into the stuff that we weren't even trying to go into. Talk about Ice Cube. All right. We talked about Cornel West. I don't like Cornel West I don't like him as a presidential candidate. I think he'd land a make-believe zone, but we did talk last night. I do want to touch base on what we talked about last night. I said that Cornel West and Tavis Smiley were haters when it came to President Obama. I said the only reason why they criticized President Obama Cornel West didn't get an extra ticket to the inauguration for his mama. It was mad about it. And Tavis Smiley was mad that he wasn't made either chief of staff or press secretary. All right. I'm sorry y'all to get those spots. I don't think they would. Now, I'm not saying some of their criticisms weren't valid, but what I'm saying is they were only saying it because they didn't get their ticket to the party.
I think that had something to do with it. I'm not going to deny it on that. At the same time, they had some legitimate criticism.
Oh, they did.
Michael Eric Dyson was with them until Obama, until they put him on.
Yeah, he got his ticket to the party. Michael Eric Dyson got his ticket to the party. They said, "Come on, man, you come on through." You know.
Listen, Michael, if you listen, I remember, we got Jackie Robinson, but we waiting for Willie Mays to show up. I remember that, Mike. I remember the speech. Don't act like
Michael Eric Dyson's funny, cuz.
I remember it. He said it.
Well, I'm gonna say this, bro.
I remember.
Cornel West was salty though, but I had a lot of criticisms. I like President Obama. I particularly like Michelle Obama. But
we're not gonna go there.
But I'm gonna say this. I had a lot
like
of
his foreign policy.
Yeah. Oh, foreign policy, energy policy.
Rich. You like his foreign policy?
Who? President Obama?
Is quid pro quo to the African nations, what he wanted them to do?
No. I don't like the fact. Well, I don't like the fact that President Obama, he basically messed up with Russia and Syria. He emboldened Putin. He was part of the line of presidents that emboldened Putin. Obama was weak on foreign policy. You can't draw a line in the sand with Syria and tell them not to cross it, and then they cross it, you don't do nothing. That don't work. And Russia saw that as, oh, they ain't gonna do nothing. All right. I blame every president from from Bush the first, when the walls in the Soviet Union came down, from Bush all the way up to Trump for what's going on in Russia right now in Ukraine, because they've just made some series of bad choices about foreign policy when dealing with Russia. But I'm gonna go deep into that. We'll have a Russia conversation later, But yeah, Cornel, like I said, Cornel was just mad he didn't get invited to the party, cuz. Let's just be real. If Obama had gave him an extra ticket, and if Tavis Smiley got to be in the press corps, press secretary, they never said nothing. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, let's switch gears real quick. Let's talk about Carlee Russell, the girl who claimed that she got out the car to help a white baby and was therefore after that kidnapped and popped up at home 2 days later with no explanation. What are your thoughts on that one?
So it's a travesty because Rich, and I've been talking to people about this, and I've done some research, and I've actually did a show on human trafficking, particularly with women. And women getting kidnapped in human trafficking. And at first glance, we thought that's what this seemed like. And it's a travesty because human trafficking is rivaling worldwide the drug trade. Just came out, your United States government has been brokering human trafficking here from Mexico. That's the truth. That's a fact. Go look it up. Yes. It's indirect, of course. It's indirect because a lot of the undocumented people, if you will, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, a lot of the children that are coming over here, right, coming over there by themselves, or minors, and what they're doing with those minors and how they are farming them, if you would, or how they're being distributed. There was one woman who was part of that part of the government. I'm not for sure the name of the government or her name, but she was a whistleblower and she blew the lid off of it. Go look it up. If you don't believe me, go look it up. And so human trafficking is very rich. It's a $1 billion, I think $150 billion industry here in the United States alone. It's bad. And we're talking about women, mostly women and children being kidnapped. And this is a sick thing for her to do, to make it up, when we have women facing these kinds of things here and in the world. This is a global thing. It's so bad here in Michigan that they only can do damage control. They know they can't stop it. They just have to do damage control, and that's all throughout the country. That's how bad human trafficking is. And it's a damn shame that this woman, she needs to be prosecuted. She needs to spend some time in jail. Give her about 6 months. We won't put her in there a long time. Go ahead and lock her ass up for 3 to 6 months, somewhere, and let her sit out. Let her sit her ass down somewhere. And then you come out and act like you got some sense. You have to hold we always complain, niggas always complain. Oh, the black person, oh, the black man, the black woman, when they get kidnapped or something happening to them, don't nobody give them attention. Now we get the whole nation got their eyes on this woman and has empathy, and she full of shit as a Christmas turkey.
Damn. Okay.
That's a damn shame.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna read from NBC News, July 24th, 2023, 4:25 p.m. That was yesterday. Carlee Russell admitted she did not see a toddler wandering on the side of the highway and lied about being kidnapped in a hoax that set off a nationwide effort to find her, an attorney for the Alabama woman said. Police Chief Nicholas C. Durzis read the statement provided by Russell's attorney during a news conference in which the 25-year-old nursing student said she was not abducted, as the nation was led to believe when she disappeared July 13th. Russell said she had not left the Hoover area. She returned home 49 hours later after a call to 911 reporting seeing the child on the interstate. All right. Hold on. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, let me say this. All right. I saw a series of black women losing their mind because we were saying sounds funny, sounds shady.
Yep.
Y'all don't ever believe. Look, let me tell you something. This woman did a disservice to black women because it's true. Black women go missing and the news is silent. Okay.
Hold on just a moment. Mm-hmm. Hold on. Kelly's around. What the fuck?
All right, everybody, hold on a second. I'm gonna have to mute Jonathan. He look like he's about to get on somebody. But I'm gonna continue to say that there were a lot of sisters and some brothers complaining about the fact that the news wasn't going to follow the Carlee Russell story and what we weren't going to do. I'm glad the news did, and I hope they continue to do so when it's black women missing, because yes, that is underreported and is not dealt with properly. Hold on a second. Let me bring the brother back on. All right, bro. All right. So I was saying that it is a disservice to the black women who have been kidnapped, who have been, murdered and missing or sex trafficked, because this woman, does the boy who cries wolf, and it's just a bad look. However, that being said, we do know it's a problem. You are correct. It is a law enforcement issue that we're not dealing with the trafficking of human beings because it's out of control. But there's always a market and a thirst for that. Like there's a thirst for drugs and all kinds of other things. There's some sick people out there that buy young girls and young boys. There's people that hold them in homes as slaves, as sex slaves, all kinds of things. There's all kinds of horrible things that happen. And this girl going out and playing the game, yes, she should be prosecuted. Anybody who lies about something like this. I'm not saying she should get 100 years in jail, but she should definitely spend at least a month in one, to think about what she did. Just like with Juicy Smollett and his line, But at the end of the day, this is it's bad because I saw a lot of black women. Well, I'm not going to discount her. We clearly knew this woman was lying. All right.
So here's the problem. Here again, methodology. Why are we seeing this nationwide? So here's the problem I have with this. I have two problems. I got a problem with her, and I got a problem with the media. I got a problem with the police. Right? Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. There's cameras on that freeway. They knew damn well whether she was abducted immediately. They knew this already. There was cameras.
But you know what? I'm going to say.
There's no but to that, Rich.
No, the but is this. I think that the police, let's just be real. The police are under fire. Let's just be real. And race is a big issue right now. So you just can't come out and say this chick lying her ass off. You can't come out and say
yes,
that.
You can.
No, you can't.
Let it have been my
Listen. You know good and damn well. You and I might rationally be able to deal with it. But right now, the issue of race is so loaded in American society that everybody's got to be careful what the hell they say, how they look. They going to make sure they dot every I and dot every T before they call her a liar. Because at the end of the day, they knew it came out when we thought she was lying. And I was on YouTube looking at from comic hype to comedy hype to Vlad TV to freaking Roland Martin. They were like, well, she might not be lying because he's like, come on, man. Well, there's a lot of women been kidnapped. Yes, that's true. And this woman ain't helping, so there's this one pastor. He's a bishop. I forgot his name. Lord, I'm going to have to look him up real quick. But this bishop was first snapping about that nobody was going to look for this poor girl, right? And then when people started looking, then he shifted his complaint where they're not looking hard enough, right? Then as you go on, Bishop Talbot Swan, which is embarrassing. I think he's in the Church of God in Christ, I believe. But anyway, he was going on and on about this chick. And then when the counter was lying, she was lying. Instead of just calling her on it and saying what you just said, that this does a disservice to the actual Black women who are missing, who are being sex trafficked, who are being kidnapped. It does a disservice to them. Instead of saying that, he qualifies. Well, white people lie too. It's like, okay, man, when we gonna stop with what? Let's just, because if a white chick lie, guess what? They still gonna cover white women missing. All right. But Black women, we can't play these games. We need when our sisters, when it's something unfortunate like that happens, we need people to be dead serious about it. So we can try to hopefully find the person before any real harm comes to them. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. Chick was lying. I knew she was lying from the jump. You're a baby walking on the expressway, you jumped out. Come on, really? So but I'm not gonna make any jokes about it. It's very serious.
Yeah,
but to your point,
start off with jokes immediately.
Yeah, but to your point about sex trafficking, like I said, I'll look into some of the things that you said, a little closer. But at the end of the day, it is a worldwide problem. It's a problem in the United States. All right, it's a problem across the world. And this. I mean, I hate to say it, man. This just comes down to evil. That's just evil.
Yeah.
Right. That's just pure, unadulterated evil. And that's one of the things when we're looking at people that come across the border, migrants or undocumented, whatever you want to call them. At the end of the day, that's one reason why we need a better system, because we need to know who's coming in, who's leaving, and we need to know where, so people aren't being exploited, not just sexually exploited, like people who are sex trafficked, but people are exploited just on regular jobs, getting paid 30 cents an hour to do stuff. You know what I'm saying? They're exploited when they work in the farms. They're exploited when they work in the restaurants. So we shouldn't want to see people be exploited. We should just have a regular guest worker program. People come in, here's your green card, come and work. You're going to be treated fairly. You're entitled to the same workers' rights as anybody else in our country and protections. So you cannot be used and exploited if we want that labor here. But as far as the sex trafficking, that is something that I think that we should really put the brunt of law enforcement and, parts of the military involved in trying to stop it. You can never completely stop anything, that, but we need to slow it down for what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you got people in power who are doing it, who are part of it. So I don't know that how much.
Well, you're a paragon of history. That's often the case.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something. My dad used to tell me a long time ago. Nothing bad happens unless somebody benefits from it. And usually it's somebody who benefits big from it.
Yeah.
Things that can be stopped that continue to happen, someone's benefiting.
Yeah.
Someone powerful is benefiting.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. So that being said, on to a more, well, I should say, less serious but still serious topic. The homie Keefe D.
All right. Is he the homie anymore? He ain't the homie.
I don't think he's the homie no more. I think everybody know he wore a wire to try to trip up Von Zip in New York, and he snitched out his nephew, Orlando Anderson. Now, some people say the man is a snitch for doing that. Orlando has already passed away at that time. Orlando Anderson being the one. Okay, everybody. Tupac is not alive in Mexico. Tupac was not killed by the government. Tupac was not killed by Suge Knight. Tupac was killed by a Southside Crip named Orlando Anderson. Now, I'm not the first to say this. This has all been exposed on Vlad TV and
documentaries, all kinds of
documentaries. Stuff. Bomb First. Y'all should follow the Bomb First podcast with Reggie White, by the way. It's a good podcast.
Cool.
Reggie White and Mob James. Bomb First. Look it up on YouTube.
Bomb First?
Bomb First.
Okay.
Tupac to say Bomb First. All right. So, yeah, you should definitely follow Bomb First. All right. And you got other other podcasts that talk about the gangster stuff. Now, anybody who ever been to LA and know any people in LA, if you know anybody from any of the hoods there, and you know anybody that's on the streets doing what they was doing back then, gangbanging, if you know any of them, anybody who knew anybody in LA knew who killed Tupac probably 2 weeks after it was over.
Yeah.
All right. That's why I kept telling people talk about Suge. I'm like, no, it's like some Compton gangbanging stuff to me. And it was, and just to be brief, Tupac, Trayvon, one of his homies, who was a Mob Piru, also on Death Row Records, had an incident with his chain at one of the malls. All right. Southside, the Crips, somebody tried to take chain. I don't know if the chain was actually taken or not. In any case, when they go to the fights the next day, I believe, they see Orlando, who one of the people who was involved in this. He's a Crip from Southside. Tupac is with Mob Piru dudes, Buntry and Trayvon and a few other people in Suge. They see him. Tupac being Tupac. People, please stop saying that he was stupid. He involved himself in gangbanging stuff. Tupac was in his mid-20s. He was a young man, and we don't think right. He was impulsive. He went over there and stole on dude. If Tupac was with you and you got in a fight, Pac is fighting too. That's just how he was. Mm-hmm. Now, I do have to admit he was. When he put MOB on his stomach, that meant mob. That did not mean money over B words. That meant mob, as in Mob Piru. The young homies loved Tupac. They still do. A lot of Bloods love Tupac. A lot of Crips do too. Everybody loved Tupac. But that was they dude. They loved him. He was the homie. A lot of the older Bloods weren't too happy about that arrangement, but that's the truth. That's what it was. And unfortunately, he got killed by this Crip after they stomped him out. Dude wanted revenge. Keefe D, what we're told is Puffy was already trying to pay Keefe and them to kill Suge and Pac because Keefe D and them hung out with Puffy all the time. Puffy came out to LA all the time, hung out with them. Mm-hmm. Puffy not cleaning this. Now, Puffy probably going to beat it because I don't think Von Zipper's alive anymore, so he can't testify that he was given a check to pay the Southside Crips to kill Tupac and Suge. Mm-hmm. Maybe these prosecutors found something, and Puff be held accountable for that, his part of this. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So no, Suge was not responsible for that. The government wasn't responsible. That one conspiracy. I know black folks love their conspiracies, but it's pretty well known that Tupac was shot by Orlando Anderson. Keefe D was in the car. Keefe D had talked about this about 4 or 5 years ago with a proffer agreement, but instead of him shutting up after that, he went on TV, on interviews, on Death Row Chronicles, on Vlad TV, on Cab Capone, and Art of Debate or Discussion, whatever art show is, and he talked about it more and more and more, and made more and more until he talked himself into his house being raided. All right, and he probably gonna be indicted by it. If not the end of this week, by the beginning of next week, I'm sure. So you're gonna do some time on that one. Puff better hope there ain't nobody alive left that know his part in it. Otherwise, as the government don't play. They want you, they want you. And he better hope U.S. Attorney wasn't a fan of Tupac's music. He better hope U.S. Attorney wasn't about the West Coast or the West Coast East Coast beef. That's what he better hope. Because everybody took a side. Don't get me wrong, I respect him and respect Big, but I was always Team Tupac. I was Team West Coast. Maybe it's because I spent time out there, got to know some people out there. But I also like the music a little bit better. Even though my favorite rappers all come from New York, but my favorite producer, Dr. Dre. That's all to say. Okay. But that being said, yeah, so that's what's up with that, man. So, I guess we'll end it on a less serious note, but still serious. That's something that, it's something that we are for the last 30 years, everybody act like they didn't know. But it's sad the streets knew about, like I said, the streets knew a few minutes after it happened.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure the government knew it. I guess it's not what you know, is what you can prove. You got to give it to their no snitch culture in LA, though, because nobody snitched until Keefe D did. And everybody knew what happened. Suge definitely knew what happened. He didn't snitch. Mm-hmm. He knew who he looked at was shooting at him. He didn't say a word, And for all the people that say nobody ever got get back for Tupac getting shot, not that we should encourage gang violence. We should not be encouraging Bloods and Crips or GDs and BDs or Vice Lords and Stones or anybody shooting at each other, trying to kill each other. We shouldn't be encouraging that. But there are some people that were saying that, well, the mob didn't do anything. Tupac got killed. No, unfortunately, there was a lot of shootings in Compton after that. The mob and the South Side was at it for a minute on that. And we shouldn't want that, but that is what happened because a lot of the younger bloods, Pac was they do. In fact, Biggie going to LA, Biggie and Puff going to LA, that was a bad move, man. That was. I mean, you got to understand, them dudes out there are serious. The only people more dead serious about gangbanging in LA is, I'm going to say, Chicago. I'm going to say about neck and neck. But if you know that this dude was loved by these Pyrus, why? Why do you think that it's a smart move? And then, of course, they made that song that they claim one about Pac, Who Shot You?
Back to Cali.
Yeah, back to Cali. Okay. Them dudes ain't playing out there, man. They not. And they won back then. They still not. So you go out there. It's unfortunate. To me, it's unfortunate. Two of the best rappers of all time, obviously the most iconic rappers of all time, died. Neither one of them from Compton. Died about some Compton gangbang politics. That's sad. But it wasn't just that. Puffy and Suge was putting the flames on that. It became a thing, because when Snoop them went to New York, you'll hear that, like I say, go to Bomb First, listen to Reggie Wright's program. He talks about all this. Mob James, they all talk about this. When Snoop them went to New York, and you look at Trey D's interview or Corrupt's interview, when they did that song New York, Biggie's like, man, these West Coast dudes here in New York, y'all letting them do this, and they shot up their trailer, bro. They shot up Snoop them, and they got shot up. Because the video, that's why the video became what it was for New York, big city of dreams. I gotta say it now. And everything in New York ain't always what it seems. You might get food if you come from out of town. Okay, I'm done. I'm down by law. We're with the dog pound too much. Sir. Okay, I'm done. You can't start a line and not finish it, man. Come on, man. But yeah. So it's unfortunate that all these shootings and stuff happen over something that didn't have to happen. And this is this is why gang culture, unfortunately, has become infused in hip hop culture to the point that they're not distinguishable anymore. And like I was telling you about Cube, you tell a young dude about Cube that Cube, he ain't hard. Well, when did he have to be hard? What type of rapper is he? How good does he rap? He ain't real. So you got to actually have bodies to be a good rapper. I mean, it's like saying Robert De Niro, if he plays a mafia dude, or Joe Pesci, well, they ain't real. They ain't got no bodies. We want, they're telling stories, so they're actors. These are musicians and rappers. They should be able to be famous based on the music alone. Your rapping skill. Remember when that mattered? How good you rapped?
Well, we got a culture of NS. I'm going to spare your viewers that word.
Thank you.
NS.
Well, let's hope that we can, get, and I won't say, that you're right. That's hip hop culture. And hip hop culture, let me be the first to say this if no one else has. Hip hop culture is not synonymous with Black culture. All right. They're two different things. Now, there are certain aspects of Black culture that are part of hip hop culture. Right. But Black culture is not, chicken and waffles. Let me put it this way. It's not watermelon. It's not somebody boomboxing or rapping or hip hopping. That's not Black culture. Black culture is a range of things, not just the things that we find entertaining, or find negative also. Because I get tired of people saying, Bill Clinton was first black president because he smoked weed and cheated on his wife, stuff like that. That's not Black culture. Or I saw a video on Twitter with Black women twerking very, very just vulgarly. And the woman said, "Oh, the modern Black woman is no standards." I'm like, okay, that's not Black woman culture. That's ghetto culture.
Right.
That's those women. All right. That's not Michelle Obama. That's not even Candace Owens. That's not, Condoleezza Rice. That's not Oprah. That's not Megan Good. That's not Keke Palmer. Okay, it might be Keke Palmer. I'm gonna leave her alone because sisters get mad about you critique Keke Palmer. I guess our man got in trouble for that. But anyway, we done talked enough because we done been talking for a minute. We got to do this again next week. Thanks to everybody who checked in. Jonathan, do you have anything that you got going on that you want people to know about?
Check out Robert Kennedy Jr., another
Okay.
Democratic candidate. Just look. I'm saying give him a look. I ain't saying you got to like everything, but give him a look.
Well, I'm going to have to say, check out Chris Christie, y'all.
Oh, all right, it's time to go on that note. Bye.
Peace. All right, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Y'all take it light. Have a nice evening. See you soon.